Do you have a minute for Comadre time?
Hola Comadres, welcome to another episode of Comadre-Gram podcast. I'm your host Marcy, and today we have a solo episode, the first of the season, in celebration of our birthday that just happened on the 27th. We would like to do a review of our 20 most favorite episodes. Cue the applause. And the episodes, the way I decided which 20 we were going to pick, because right now, in actuality, we're like at episode 80. I believe this is 87. Don't quote me on that. So this might be episode 86 or 87. However, we have 20 wonderful episodes that we can choose from. And this is based on data from Libsyn, where we host our podcast, and off of YouTube as well. But before we get into that, I want to do like a little life recap. The school year has been going really well for Aiden. His birthday is on Sunday, on the 5th. So this episode is airing right before his birthday. And I want to say that I've seen so much progress in the last month and a half since he's been back at school. He's been having more utterances, like longer sentences for him. So he's been having sentences in which he initiates the conversation. 1, 2, he takes up to 2 turns, and he stays on topic, which is big. I know people are like, whatever, like, you know, but for us autism moms, or moms of children with special needs that have speech and language delays, that's huge, because he's actually able to sustain a conversation. What was it that we were talking about the other day? He was brushing his teeth, and then all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and tells me, "What season is it, Mom?" And I'm like, it's fall. It's getting colder. We were talking about how he needs to stop using the AC. But that is not always easy for him, because I don't think it's so much that he gets hot. It's more of a sensory thing. He likes to hear the noise in the background. Anywho, we were discussing how he needs to start turning off the AC, and how it's getting colder, and that's just what needs to happen. Then he asks me, he says, "Okay, Mom," and then he says, "What season is it?" And I'm like, "It's fall." He's like, "Oh yeah, the leaves are falling down and it's getting colder." I'm like, "It sure is." And in my heart, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I don't know, I haven't been able to have those type of conversations with him, and for him to really understand. So that was pretty cool. Another thing he did was that I posted this on Instagram like 2 days ago, but I was getting ready for work, and I had helped him get ready for school first, because that's what I usually do. Because push comes to shove, if the bus gets here and I'm not ready, I'm okay to go down in pajamas, but he can't go to school if he's not fully ready. So I get him ready first, and he was gonna start watching cartoons. Usually that's what he does in the morning. And before he started watching cartoons, he fixed his bed, and then he came over to my room without even me asking him, and he decided to fix my bed too, which was super nice. He didn't have to do that. So he's such a little gentleman. I feel like his love language, or the way he shows love to people, is by doing things for them, like acts of service, which is awesome. Then I'm getting to know my son that way. So yeah, he's turning 15 on Saturday. I was reminiscing with my compadre the other day. Shout out to Ishmael. He's an avid listener of the show, and actually one of our biggest fans. And we were talking about how the first time he met Aiden, well, first of all, when I got pregnant, he was one of the first people I told. He and I have been really, really close friends for a long time. I think I've told the story before on the show, but he's a very thoughtful person. And so he was one of the first people, besides Aiden's dad, that I told that I was pregnant, and him and my comadre. And I also yeah, he was one of the first people to see Aiden in the hospital. So I gave birth, and they went over, him and his wife, and his baby Ian, who's a grown ass man also. He's 16 already. So yeah, they came to the hospital to see Aiden, and yeah, no, it was funny. Like, he's such a dope person, and his wife is such an amazing person as well. And I am so grateful. Like, I shout out my village all the time, but he's definitely one of those people that's part of the village. And him and his wife have demonstrated time and time again that they've been there for us and are supportive as friends and as like almost like family. They know my family as well as I know theirs, and actually, I've been to his wife's house in Dominican Republic. But yeah, anyway, so we were discussing that and how time passes by so fast. It's crazy. He's 15. If he was a girl, I don't think I would have done a quince. I probably would have waited till he was 16 and done something. But I think next year I'm gonna try to plan out beforehand. So today's topic isn't really a topic, but it's reliving our best episodes. Um, and we're gonna start with number one, which was careers on the spectrum. Shout out to the comadres that actually responded to my poll online, responding to let me know which one were their favorite episodes. So this one goes to Diana. In the Careers on the Spectrum episode, I had Pavel Martinez on, of Quien Tu Eres podcast. And he was letting us know like how we can show up more authentically in our work environments, and how we can show up more authentically. Pavel actually went viral after posting his salary from his previous employer online, and it was just a big to do, especially during the pandemic, because it's always been a thing where people don't, they advise against you saying how much you make, just because they just try to pit us against each other, in a sense, in corporate settings especially, because usually there's pay disparities. If everything was transparent and there was like a pay scale for everyone and everybody got paid the same, there would be no issue with you sharing your salary with somebody else. So yeah, let's go to that episode.
Nothing like me, but it was still that proximity to someone that I knew that worked at Google. I was like, huh? Again, people work there. I just thought it was like a search engine on the back end, right? So once I did get into the tech world, I didn't see that many people look like me, which is when I got hit with imposter syndrome. And so imagine like me finally getting that dream job, but then looking around, not seeing people that look like you. And then you're like, maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I don't deserve to be here, right? So then you get all those like messages in your head and those voices in your head, right? And then eventually where I'm at now is like you try to be the representation that you wish you had when you first stepped in there.
I love that, Pavel. I want to kind of touch on that, like with respect, because I'm a teacher. I'm a special education teacher. So I want to say, growing up in the Heights, at the time that I grew up in the late 80s, when I was in elementary school, a lot of the teachers that I met were not people that looked like me. It was like, I'm like right by Yeshiva University, so it was a lot of Anglo-Saxon, Jewish women, that were teaching us, right? And a lot of them had like the best intentions at heart, but I did not see myself represented in the people that were teaching me, which was like a big thing, because at the end of the day, like, my mother came from Dominican Republic as a immigrant, and she was a teacher in Dominican Republic. So I was looking for people that looked like my mom when I went to school. So, once, as I got older, like, I feel like it wasn't until I went to high school that I saw teachers that were people of color. Number one, like, my one teacher that was of color was Mr. Fertulian. Shout out to Mr. Fertulian. He was my second grade teacher. He's actually Haitian Dominican. So he was raised in Dominican Republic, and like, he knew about the culture. So I saw myself in him. So I feel like representation matters a lot, because like, once I saw Mr. Fertulian and what he was doing for the students in the school, it kind of inspired me to pursue my career in teaching later on in life. So it that is like key. Like, I feel like yes, we're all people of color. No, we do not all have the same background because there's different experiences. But I feel like if you can see somebody that looks like you, that dresses like you, it like hits home, and it kind of sets a narrative that you can be more than what people expect of you, especially coming from, Washington Heights, or like, the Bronx.
Thing that I try to do is work for companies that believe in like strength-based organizations. So not necessarily helping you work on things that you're not good at, but helping you do the thing that you're good at all the time, right? So identifying the fact that like, hey, I know you want to get into sales, but um, maybe that's not the most comfortable thing for you, but you're really good at this, and then helping them find a career path that it aligns with their strengths and things that they're really good at, right? So that's one thing I've seen. And then the other thing that I've seen is I used to work with a colleague that did everything with one arm. It was like the most functional arm that they had. And again, I don't really know how to say this, but I've never seen anyone say anything negative. I've never seen anything like treat this employee any differently. Never seen them sort of hold different standards or expectations that are lower compared to other employees, sort of like treat them equally and the same. You know what I mean? So I was really encouraged by that. And, because I'm sure that there are certain environments where that isn't the environment, right? And this person is, disrespected and treated unfairly and all these other things. So those are like the two experiences that I've seen.
Episode number 19 is one that's near and dear to my heart. I love this guest so much. And recording with her was so phenomenal because not only do her and I align on so many different topics, but she's also a Kundalini yoga practitioner. But she was able to verbalize so eloquently what it was like to deal with grief and loss, and how it motivated her to go into the field that she's doing right now. And that's my beautiful Jessica Paulino, who's also a member of the Brujas of Brooklyn community. And we connected also. I believe she's not a Mami Chula, but yeah, she's badass. And here's the episode.
I think what has shifted for me in starting the EMA project is that I can really bring my whole self, my whole authentic self. That means all parts of me. And that is something that I never felt in my career, to be honest with you. As a person of color, a woman of color, who was oftentimes the only person of color in the room in companies that pushed, DEI, for those who don't know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It never felt that way to me being on the inside, right? So I have the unique opportunity to build a company that represents my values, that represents my mission, that represents me as a full-faceted individual. That includes spirituality, that includes God for me, that includes, prayer, meditation. And so I bring that with me now everywhere that I go, which is very freeing. Loss. So there are times when a birthing person is told that their baby has died in utero. That often means that person now has, not often, most times, it means that that person actually has to go through the birthing process knowing that their child is without life. So it's really important to me, after what I experienced as a woman of color, an educated woman, a woman who had access, right, to resources. I found myself a little lost within my prenatal journey. And then after the transition of my sunshine, it just became apparent that a lot of the services that are offered are not offered by people that look like us. And so they don't necessarily have the cultural competency that it takes to understand the many layers within our culture, within language, within education. And so.
All right. And number 18, top 20 countdown. Number 18 in the top 20 countdown is Double D's Dating and Divorce, featuring none other than Penny, my friend from the Mami Chula Social Club. In this episode, we talk about not the pitfalls of, yeah, I guess the pitfalls of dating and what it's like to readjust to being single again after being married for such a long time. Her and I, we go over our dating horror stories a little bit, and yeah, Penny's actually one of my favorite guests because she's just so naturally funny, and I feel like we feed off of each other, so it just makes it more funny. So yeah, this is the episode.
Dynamic, and I'm older. I'm an adult now, and yeah, but it's fun. I'm taking it day by day.
All right, so you saying you're an adult now. When you got into the relationship with your ex, you said 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you when you got with
We
that
met.
person?
When I was 17, because he's 4 years older than me, and we got together at 18, and then like within months of dating, we moved in together. So you remember when you were 18, you were just freaking clueless, even though you thought that you were like the smartest person in the world and the most adult human in the world. I was definitely not any of that. So like I'm still growing, I'm still figuring myself out, and I'm still like I'm now realizing I'm like, oh, I'm a little bit toxic, so maybe I should work on that, like not being so toxic. So I was young, I was stupid, I was in love, of course, and the love was great, but it just didn't work out. We grew up, and we kind of grew up not being the people we hope to be with, I guess. Like if I would have met him now, I probably would not be with him. He wouldn't be someone that I would want to date, I think. Probably a friend for sure, but not like as a partner in life.
He's not from here.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I thought he was Dominican American.
No, he's Dominican.
Oh, straight up.
Like, yeah, so everything got a little bit more complicated. Yeah, that's how come sometimes I don't understand like how some people decide to have kids to fix the relationship, because it actually just
seems to be a very common thing,
worse.
to be honest. Just like, I mean, I don't have any children, so I have no idea about, nor did I ever want to be like, we're gonna have a kid to try to fix this. My mindset was never there. My mindset to be a mom wasn't necessarily there. I'm very maternal, but sometimes my mindset of being an actual mom is not there.
Yeah.
I want to be a grandma though. Can't wait to be a grandma.
All right. Episode 16 is featuring my bestie, Ami V Nails on Instagram. She is a professional nail artist. We talk about dating during the pandemic, and how she found love during that time. So we go over her love story with her current boo and what that was like dating, what it's like dating as a mom, and like the things that we deal with as well. So that was another popular episode. September after the panini. Wow, wait, you guys got together right before we shut down the world.
Yeah, we literally were going on dates. And then he got COVID in like March. And I didn't see him for like a whole month because he got it really bad.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was doing the monologues at the beginning of March, right?
I think that's the last event that I went to before everything went to crap. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, man. So wait, how did you guys meet?
Dating app.
Yeah. So you swiped right?
Yeah. He'll tell the story differently. I'm sure if he's hearing this right now, he's laughing because he's like, you looked, how is it that he says? You hit me up. And he has the messages saved. And I'm like, burn them.
He's like, I have all the receipts.
Yeah.
Shots, bro.
But yeah, we met on a dating app, which is the norm. And we were going on such cute dates, and it was so fun. And then se jodió todo. Like, the pandemic happened, then he had COVID, so I didn't see him for like a month. But we were still communicating.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did the cutest thing, which I think began the kind of, I'm not going to say my interest. I was interested in him, but it kind of like solidified, like, oh, this dude is serious. So he's like, oh, my boy, he's selling Girl Scout cookies. So I'm like, hello. Yes, I want some tagalongs and some Samoas and some this. And he goes, and I tell him my order. And he's like, all right, I'm going to let him know. And then the next week, he's like, oh, my boy's going to bring it to you around 5. So I'm like, okay, I'll come down and I'll get it. So I put my mask on. He's like, yeah, he's downstairs. And it's him. And I'm like, oh. But it was so weird because at the same time, it's like he's very nervous and cautious about the people that he cares for. So he's like scared to get me sick, even though he had already like been good. But it was the beginning. Nobody knew anything.
Yeah.
So we're like sitting in his car with masks and we're just like, hey. It was like awkward and cute. But the fact that he like surprised me and wanted to see me, I'm like, oh, pero mira este, like how cute. And I don't know, it just kind of, you know, they say actions are better than words, and he showed me that, so I was like, okay.
Yeah, I totally believe that. I feel like stuff like that, it's like, he didn't have to do that, but he did it. And it's kind of like, it shows you so much interest on his part. I remember listening to the story when we were, because guys, so the next episode, number 17. Number 17 is the episode with Vernon Jackson, the barber of Gift District. I interviewed him. I feel like this episode didn't get as much traction, but because I was just starting out, it didn't get as popular. But I would love for you guys to see the amazing episode that we had. We talk about his gifted event, how he came up with the concept of having a special day in the month where kids kids with special needs go into the barbershop to get haircuts. And he does like a specific method that he uses. He also trains all the barbers that are part of his the barbershop that he runs to be able to work with the children. And he has had so much success with these events. He actually recently got featured, I think, on the morning show for that, so we'll check that out. The kids on the spectrum have issues with barbershops and haircuts. So children on the spectrum suffer, they call it a comorbidity. So it's another kind of disability that often is linked to autism. It's not part of autism because not every child has that. But if they have this disorder linked with their autism, they'll have issues with certain things. And it's called sensory processing disorder. Sensory processing disorder basically is the children have a hypersensitivity to different things. That could be to sensations, it can be to smells, to noises. So a lot of the time when we see the behavior, but we don't know why. So we can see a kid, if there's a loud noise, they'll cover their ears with both hands. Or if like the lights are like, let's say it's a fluorescent lighting, sometimes it actually makes a humming noise. For us, because we're neurotypical people, we don't hear it, right? But for them, it can actually be painful to the point that it's painful. So all these things are taken into account, and then like the sensation of certain textures, feeling certain things on your body, and smells as well can have them have a adverse reaction to different things. So this is why kids on the spectrum, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have issues with haircuts. So you were saying, Vernon, that you are a licensed cosmetologist. So I just wanted to see, I wanted to know, like, how long have you been doing it, and what made you want to pursue that career?
Yeah, the first time I think I was at Great Clips. I think it was probably at Great Clips or Supercuts, and just one thing I knew was that I had to move with the kid. You know, it wasn't about me focusing on what I wanted to do. It was about what the kid had the capacity for, and how I can get the job done within a reasonable amount of time.
The number 15 is actually the Oh Sweet Child of Mine episode. It's featuring Geraldine De Leon, New York City, former North Carolina mom to a boy with autism. We discussed the process of getting the initial evaluation and steps to follow in this episode. I feel like this episode is very informative. The video wasn't that great, so bear with us. I would love to re-record with Geraldine, so I'm putting it out there. So that was pretty much. And the reason why the topic came up is because, just like you were talking and informing other parents, I feel like my show's doing that as well. The only thing is, like, I want to kind of just hone in on that initial process and really guide parents, especially if they feel like their child is quote unquote different or is not developing at the same pace as typically developing children. So I just want to give them a little bit more orientation in that area.
Or even a sibling. A lot of the times as parents, we compare our children with each other, or a niece and nephew, or a neighbor, or whatever. So yeah,
or a cousin or anything like that. Thank you. Okay, so let's start with that. What's your child's diagnosis?
So Gavin, he is diagnosed with autism. He has, I don't have his stuff in front of me, but he has ADHD traits as well. So with him is not only the emotional and social disconnect, or better word, not being able to make proper connections with other people. As far as cognitively, he's very well capable of, understanding, first, academics. He's able to hold a conversation with a child as well as an adult. The only thing is that when it comes to, using certain vocabulary that would express, that sense of connection, or let's per se say sympathy, right? Or you're hurt or something, unless you don't make it very obvious to him, he won't know that. But he is capable of saying, Mom, I'm not happy right now, or things like that. But he won't use, like, I'm upset, or I'm sad. Like, he won't necessarily know what the word is for that feeling. So
okay,
yeah,
not yet.
So and he is getting services for that. So his diagnosis is pretty much out of the 5 spectrums, he's like on the 4th one. So it's more of the high functioning. So we do predict, God willing, he will be able to, with guidance and with support, to have a successful adulthood, because he.
All right. Number 14 is one of our episodes from the very first season, episode 19, featuring Alicia Renee. She's a fellow autism mom and also ovarian cancer survivor. We talk about our experiences, pre-autism diagnosis, red flags to look out for in your child that should cause concern. Alicia gets very candid as she shares the concerns that she has had as her son becomes a man. Alicia and I have maintained a relationship via social media. We've yet to meet in person, but that's coming soon. And that's our episode.
To do these things. And so I knew something wasn't right, but I just really wasn't sure what it was. So just like, I'll figure it out. Like, I don't know. And I would talk to the doctors about it. And it was just like, fine. We really wasn't too much to do at that time. Mm-hmm. But definitely at his 2-year-old checkup, mm-hmm. We had some concerns. And when I say we, me and the doctor, we went in for the checkup, and she's like, why isn't he talking? And it's like, that's what I've been telling you, right? Mm-hmm. And so she's like, yeah, he should be talking by now. He should be saying, he should be saying at least a few words. And at this point, he really wasn't saying anything. He maybe said mom, mama, or dad, but that was about it. And this is at 2 years old. So that really like kicked off that moment, kicked off a whole roller coaster ride, to be honest with you. So she said, I'm going to refer you to this program, which is the infants and toddlers programs. I'm not sure if every state has an infants and toddlers program, but in Maryland, where I live, we have an infants and toddlers program. And what the infants and toddler program does is they have resources dedicated to come to your house personally or to your daycare center, and they provide services. So Xavier did start to receive early intervention. So while we're doing this early intervention with him, then I got a referral to have him go to a Children's National Hospital, which is one of the big hospitals here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, but it's really located in DC. But for your listeners that are familiar with the DMV, he went to Children's. He went to Children's Hospital, and we started to see a child developmental psychologist. And that's where I learned that only they can diagnose children with autism. No medical doctor.
All right, top 20 countdown. Number 13 is Dope Doulas. In the Dope Doulas episode, I interviewed my lovely ladies from the social club from Mami Chula, who are both happen to be they both happen to be doulas as well. So they talk about their experience in being women of color and being doulas as well. We talk about a controversial topic at the time of a woman who paid a certain amount of money to have a doula for the full time, and we were talking about whether that was too much or it was too.
It's like the original definition of a doula is a slave who supports their master in birth, like some shit like that, you know.
What?
So it has very like racist roots.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the one I found is similar, which is like one of my favorite ones is like woman who serves or like woman who supports.
Yeah.
I missed this. I missed the racist one. I got like a really like Greek one. I was like, okay, but it was like woman who serves. Yeah. It's like the textbook definition that I found that is the easiest to remember and resonate with.
Okay, so
But
how?
Obviously,
Okay,
yeah. I was gonna say, like, if we're talking about like what actually a doula does, because obviously, like, we're not slaves. What a doula does is that we support the emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of birth, and so we are not medical providers. We're more like, I like to think of it more as like guides throughout birth, or like a coach, if that resonates more with you, of like just like a person who is there to help you and support you like throughout the process.
awesome.
All right, number 12 is I Am My Sister's Keeper, which is with the hilarious and lovely Nemo. Nemo and I met again via the Mami Chula Social Club. Yo, I love, like, when I tell you I love Mami Chula, I love Mami Chula. I met Nemo through the Mami Chula Social Club. We were both in the play together. She had the role of one of the angry vaginas, but I didn't know this about her. I didn't know that she was a caretaker or a sister of a person with special needs, and she talked very candidly about her experience taking care of her sister and some of the difficulties that her family has gone through, and the type of mother that her mother is, which was lovely to hear a perspective of somebody that's a sibling to someone with special needs, and what that constitutes for them. And that's the episode there.
I'm really passionate about this particular topic. I appreciate anybody that like ever asks me, "Hey, how's your sister?" I'm like, "Oh my god, thank you. You know that she exists, because she does, and she's a very huge part of my life. She's a huge part of how I develop, like the person I am today. So, and what developed the character Nemo, and and the inspiration behind a lot of things that I do, and the reason why I go so hard the way I do.
Yeah.
She's the inspiration behind all of that. So
she's so lucky to have you.
I'm lucky to have her, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to have her. Having people with disabilities in your life makes a huge difference. And don't get me wrong, people naturally have egotistical thoughts and unconsciously, the why me thoughts, the damn, I wish things were better thoughts, damn, I wish it wasn't her thoughts. But you learn from that, and you grow from that, and you gain strength from that, and all you could do is move forward, and learn how to adapt and learn how to apply it for the better.
I really love that, Nemo. I kind of touched on that a little bit in the last episode that I recorded. I discussed, we're up, right? We're up. We're on it. We're doing the things. We're taking care of the people that we love, and we're there for them. But then we are human, and we have those moments that are just kind of like, wow, man, why me? Like, why did it have to be me? And I shared in the last episode that I recorded was God wouldn't give you this if they didn't know that you would be able to handle it and that you would be able to provide that support
Mm-hmm.
for your sibling, or your child. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like being that for your sister, because it's kind of like I wanna say that you became the older sister.
I did.
Am I? Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. So being from, like, I don't even know how you call it. My mom is from DR.
Mm-hmm.
She's full blown Dominican, migrated to the United States for a better life. And unfortunately, my sister, so the way my sister's condition started, she caught meningitis when she was a year and a half years old.
Oh, wow.
And that's what kind of rolled out the the impairments, the epilepsy, like so many things came after that affected her. My sister was born a perfectly normal baby, and then at 1.5 that
I
happened.
feel like I say every episode's my favorite episode, but all of these are my babies. Episode 11 was a good one. We were talking it's called Surviving a Narcissist, and it's featuring the amazing Liz of El Salon Chronicles, who is also a therapist. She is no, she gives us her perspective about narcissistic behavior and narcissistic tendencies. And I talk about my experience, and we talk about how that matches up with what a narcissist is, and how they operate and all of that. So that was actually a very good episode. And a lot of people that I know have dealt with narcissists before, and when they hear that episode, they're like, oh my God, this is exactly what I want. Learned about narcissistic personality disorder, right? They're able to mask and appear like they have it all together, or that they're a good person in society, but then in behind closed doors is another thing. So I feel like that the masking part is a lot of the issue with that, right? With the kids that don't get removed in situations that they should be getting removed.
Right. So first, I really want to separate two things out, because a lot of times, and it's not by anybody's fault, but we throw a lot of words out, and sometimes we really don't understand what it means. So first and foremost, there's a difference between being a narcissist and having a narcissistic personality disorder. There's a difference between.
Let's get into that.
Right. Okay. So an individual with a diagnosis, and by the way, I just need to preface it by saying that research doesn't show the amount of people that are diagnosed with a disorder, because by virtue of your grandiosity and everything, you don't have a problem, right? So you don't go seek, you don't go, you have a heart condition, you feel depressed, you have mood swings, you go see a psychiatrist. But me, I'm the best thing that happened out there. What the fuck I need to go see a doctor for? So, if you look at the research, the percentages are really low, but it does not really speak to the level of individuals or the amount of individuals that are diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. So the disorder piece, and this goes along with any mental health diagnosis, is connected to an inability to function, right? So your level of narcissism.
Now we're going into the last 10 of the top episodes. This one is awesome. It's the first time I interviewed Hazel, my friend, who's also happens to be my mentor as a teacher. Like, I looked up to her so much, and it meant so much to me to bring her on the show. So the name of this episode is called Embracing the Inner Child. We talk about the school systems and how they need to change, and we also discuss how we can support learning in our children, especially early learners. And that's pretty much it. So let us know what you think.
Quarantine was a blessing and a curse, but it was definitely more of a blessing to me, because I learned about myself, who I truly am, right? And that happens with our kids too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our autistic kids, they're always inward. They're never outward.
And
Were living outward directed lives. They are living inward directed lives, and they're like, I'm gonna do what I want to do.
yeah, and
Yeah.
this is the thing. This is like I was on a podcast for a Wind and Cloud podcast. Shout out to Rick and Alexandra, and they basically asked me, they're like, so what have you learned from your child? And I'm just like, to not give a crap about
I tell
what,
you that all the time.
yeah, about what other people have to say, about other people's opinions. Like, Aiden is very inward driven, like he's very self driven. He's gonna do what makes him happy,
Yep.
you know? And he just came out like that. And for us, the like neurotypicals, we're looking at him, well, not me anymore, but before I used to look at him like kind of like, dude, you need to follow the rules. You need to conform. This
Yeah.
is not quote unquote normal. And
Right.
that is not what he came here to do. He came to disturb and like offset everything and kind of teach us how to be more ourselves. Because a lot of the time we're living out these lives that is miserable. I remember during quarantine, and I spoke to you about this. I felt kind of like very like, I don't even know how to put it into words. Just very like ¿cómo se dice? Not deceived, kind of just
like
kind of
cheated,
like waking up every day to do the same thing and jump into the hamster wheel. And I was just kind of like, there has to be more to life. Like, this cannot be it.
It's like we were brutally awakened to that reality, that we were doing that. And in a way, you do it, and sometimes you're like, oh, I need a break, I need a vacation. And then you go back and do it again, and you're okay with it. But this time it wasn't okay.
Mm-mm.
This time it like hit you in the face, and you're like, oh my God, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
Like, this is not it.
You cannot wake up every day and be unhappy and like show up to a job and like do the thing and then go back home, sleep, and do it over again the next day. Number 9 was oh my God, it was hard to record because this person is all the way in Sweden. Wait, Sweden? No, hold on. Well, she's in a country across the pond. And Charlotte is a special woman. She is in her 40s. She was recently diagnosed with autism. She's a neurodivergency advocate and an awesome woman. We talked about love and dating and relationships on the spectrum. So, yeah, this episode was pretty popular. Autism, and you were late diagnosed. When were you diagnosed? You say you're 40 right now. When was it that you were diagnosed?
When I was 38, and so that what is 2 years ago.
Wow.
I'm a bit math blind, but I can manage that much.
Okay,
2 years.
So how was it that you found out? Like, what was it that you noticed, and what made you want to go and get evaluated?
Sorry, it was a bit crackling sound.
Okay, so how did you find out? What made you want to go and get evaluated?
Oh yeah, well, it was gradually. The thing is, I've been autistic my entire life, and how I found out is just, my whole life went pretty sideways, and then one day I ended up not able to work anymore, very burned out, and that's how I found out. But there's a longer version. That was a very, very short one. Should I try and elaborate more?
You can give me as much or as little detail as you want. If you want to like kind of tell us what that burnout was like and kind of the difficulties that you were having at the time.
Yes. So it all happened very gradually. My entire life I had been probably like joking about being autistic or saying, oh, I think I must have Asperger's or something, and it was always just a joke. But little did I know that it was not a joke. It was the fact. Uh-huh.
All
But it was,
right, number 8 is Sensual Motherhood featuring none other than Dr. Griselda Rodriguez of the Brujas of Brooklyn. This episode was everything. It was such a great episode. And this is like, honestly, I want to say my number one favorite to record. The reason why I say it was my favorite was that it was just the ease of conversation and the meshing of ideas and everything, and how open Gri was to like sharing her experience being a mom, and how we are as a collective also mothering ourselves at the same time, and unlearning those behaviors is so important. And that's the episode for that one. And I know this is a big question.
Oh, it's such a timely question too, because at least when we're recording this, right? Bell Hooks passed away, and for those that don't know, Bell Hooks was an author, an activist, a Black U.S. woman from the South whose work, I mean, I think Bell Hooks has over 40 books, really touched me and so many other women of color because of her emphasis on self-care as a revolutionary act. And the reason for it is because I think it's the obvious first that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. It's that proverbial example of when the oxygen mask comes down, God forbid, if you're in a situation in an airplane where it's needed, they always tell you adults put on your mask first, and then you could put on the child's mask because you have to be sane and stable in order to help someone who is helpless to a certain extent, which is a child. So I think that's the more obvious reason why self care is important. But then when you put certain things into context, like being women, being Latinas, being Black women, being immigrants or children of immigrants, whatever intersection your life or identities lie in, it makes it even more important because we come from people that were brutalized and whose bodies were treated inhumanely for the sake of profit and wealth building within white supremacy. And that's even more reason why for women and women of color in particular, self-care is key. I also think that self-care as mothers is very important because we give and give and give. As women, generally speaking, we tend to naturally give and be givers. But when we're a mother, that mental load is no joke. Just the laundry list of things that we're constantly micromanaging and thinking about that just adds to our load and our need to take care of ourselves. And also, lastly, because we grew up, at least I'll speak for myself and you to a certain extent, we grew up with mothers that were immigrants to a new country who didn't know or didn't have the privilege to take care of themselves. So I place self-care in the center of doing it for me and doing it for the many women in my family that weren't able to do so.
I want to touch on something that you talked about, and I do see it as a privilege, being able to self-care, because our parents number 7 is routines so we can be safe, and that's featuring Yahaira Gil de la Madrid, or Gil de la Madrid. I be getting a little bit Jono Sabo sometimes. I'm sorry. Yeah, so Jari, I call her lovingly Yari, is one of the moms that I connected with the most via one of these New York City autism parent groups, or like special needs parent groups. And yeah, we talk about how important routines are for our children and how we can avoid meltdowns, and how can we support school staff to learn our children in a more profound way and help them thrive.
And he knew it. Matthew is very fixated on predictability. If it's something that's unpredictable, he just doesn't like it. And that's when kind of like we're working on self regulating and how to cope with changes. So I think that, I guess, like I said, in the way that you see it, it could be something that's, it could be a blessing. It could be, challenging at times, but he thrives off of it. He loves it. He loves to know what's going on. And I think we kind of given him the liberty. Matthew is a very experience based person. He likes to see things, he likes to be a part of things. you know uh, I know that the stereotype right?
Yeah.
That they say is that they're non-social or they're not empathetic. Matthew is the most social little guy. He has no shame. He can go and say, "Hi, I'm Matthew," and just kind of go from there. Um, and that's what he thrives on. He loves to just be having experiences. So we kind of given him that freedom of where let's try it, and then if you don't like it, I have headphones, I have everything you need, I carry with me
Yeah.
to make sure that you know that this is an enjoyable experience up to your
Okay.
toleration.
I love it.
Yes.
So what do you do when there's like unexpected or unprecedented changes in the schedule, like to help him cope? Like, what kind of strategies are you teaching them to teaching him to self-regulate?
Well, now he's no longer in that school. He's in a different school now, which it's more of a life skills based. You have your academics, which is great, but for me, what's most important is his life skills. He can always catch up, although he's very bright, thankfully. But to me, it's important any type of life skills. So we have been working with him on teaching him techniques that he can self-regulate, or he can add now that he's speaking more fluently. Is like we're teaching him how to, you can ask why, you can ask when, or you can give your sense of opinion on, like, okay, so we're not going to the park anymore, now we have to go to grandma's house, and he can ask me why. But it's always
All right, number 6 is Lockdown Dating Disaster, featuring Jerry Diaz, my good friend. He talks about his experience um, dating during, like, at the height of the pandemic, and how that went for him. Yeah, it was a very controversial episode, because after we published the episode, his ex reached out to me. It was just a weird approach. She was like demanding that I take down the episode. But if you listen to the episode itself, which I'm gonna play a clip obviously now, he really didn't say anything bad about her. Yeah, so that's. I mean, you listen to it. Let me know if I'm wrong. Because I might have a blind spot, but I've literally talked to so many other people, and there was really nothing that he said that was wrong about her.
But also, like, a lot of bullshit got cut out. Like, a lot of, like, the fat got trimmed
Yes.
in the whole aspect of, like, everything that we call life, and kind of like everything got put into perspective, like what really is important, and
Yeah.
the value that we place on things, and some people, they place their value on money, and other people place a value on whatever it may be, their relationships, whatever. But if there was a line to be drawn, the pandemic drew it, and really well, like, so it was one of those things where you kind of had to face your truths. And guess what? We're going to get to really know each other right now, because you're not working, I'm not working, we're looking at each other. We had kids in the mix, so it's like you're looking at kids, and you're looking at your kids, you're looking at and like, this is your life, and if you are not 100% on board with what's happening, then it's not going to succeed, no matter how you try. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So yeah, I mean, it was like, my breakup happened in November 2020. I want to say, like, right before that, like right around the holidays, like,
Okay,
real
yeah.
special time. Yeah, and yeah, it was rough. And the first thing that came to my mind is, like, we can't go out. So even if I want to have like a random hookup, or like whatever the young people do, I can't do it. I can't. I like, where am I supposed to go? Unless I go to an emergency room.
Oh
Like, there's no, especially back then, there was no. And then also, like, can nobody be with nobody? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, do you have it? Are you tested? This is even before the vaccines? This was before the vaccines too. So, it's been a journey. I can't imagine going into the whole thing single. Like, Mostly because, well, one, because there were times where, like, even when things weren't going well, it was just nice to have somebody there. You know, it's just nice to have that companionship. And at the end of the day, even if you don't, there was a moment in time where you guys were mutually respecting each other and had amicable things. So you try to find those moments where you can. And with kids, it's easier because you kind of like, okay, let's play these games, let's do these things. But, yeah, I can't even imagine, it's been rough the last year. And then when you hear, like, the other thing is coming.
Episode number 5. We're in the lower 5 already. It's one of my first episodes. It was a very good one. It was amazing. I had Suli and Mari on from El Salon Chronicles. They're part of the network as well. We were talking about my experience as a mom of a child with special needs, trying to take my son to church, and why I opted not to do like physical church, even though we are spiritual people. We pray, and we practice the rosary and all these other things, but we don't actually go to church, and there's a reason why. So in this episode, you're gonna see why. We go into a lot of different topics, but it was actually okay. Damn, I say this about every episode. It was really, 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 really one of the best episodes that I've ever done. What would I change now? Obviously, I have a completely different setup. I would love to record with Mari and Suli in person. What else would I change? That's pretty much it. But I feel like the layout of the episode, the way it was written, was pretty good, and I feel like I've gotten even better now at recording. So I'm a little embarrassed that the quality isn't as great as it is now. However, I don't regret what I recorded. A little controversial. We're gonna be talking about religion and how we introduce that to children, especially children with special
Latina,
needs.
if you're Latina, relation.
So I just want to give a little bit of background. The reason why the topic came up is because I was having a conversation with my mother, and she actually asked me when I was going to put my child in catechism classes. And my answer to her was, I just kind of stood silent, and I was just going back and thinking, like, how would I explain the concepts of religion to my child, who's a very literal person? So, and I'm not the only one. I was doing some research, and I found that a lot of people have hesitance, especially parents of children with special needs, of becoming part of a religious community because of their kids' diagnosis. They felt they might be excluded, or they felt that, they're going to be rejected by the people of the church or the clergy. So we wanted to get into that. And I want to first start off the conversation by asking, what is your experience with religion? Like, what religion were you raised in? And as you grew up, how did that evolve or change?
Okay. Well, Zuli, you want to go first, or you want me to?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I am agnostic now as an adult, but I was raised in a typical Dominican household. And so we were Catholic. I was baptized, I did my communion, and I think that's where it fell off for me. Thankfully, my mother was, she was religious, but she didn't keep us from exploring or asking questions. And when she did not have the answer to the questions, she allowed us to explore it on our own. I don't know if it was just progressive of her, or is that she had 5 kids and she was too busy. So
Okay, the next one is the modern mother archetype, featuring our living goddess, Sandy. She is the host of the Art of Happy Her podcast. She's also one of the ladies of the network as well. She is a phenomenal woman. We talk about balancing all the hats of being a woman and still being like feeling sexy and still being a mother and like wearing all these different hats. Yeah, it was a great episode to talk.
No, yeah. So how do you do it? How do you balance all these hats that we wear as women and still make time for yourself so that you don't feel basically drained at the end of the day?
So I am a mom of three. I am a registered nurse by trade. And I also do styling at the side. I do product placement for liquor, Ciroc and De Leon, for a binder agency and Comb Enterprises. And I do it all, right? Um, I wear a lot of belts and I carry a lot of keys like a janitor. However, what I find that works for me is that it's been in stages. So life as a mom when they're newborn is very different when they're toddlers, right? And the same when they're teenagers. And then, like me, I have young adults. I have a 23-year-old son. I have an 18-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son, and my dog. So, for me, when they were younger, I was able to manage it like a schedule. I had a calendar, and I remember when I first had the two oldest, my life was overwhelming because I had two kids, and it was just like that's all I said to everyone. I have two kids. I have two kids. Like I can't do this. I have two kids. I have to. It was like a lot. So when the third was coming, I put out a calendar in the kitchen, literally a big ass calendar that I used to make myself because back then, I don't think we even had Target like that. I don't remember 23 years ago.
Definitely
So
not.
I don't, yeah. So I remember I made it myself. And what I did was that I used to have the days divided and I would let them know, like, listen, Mondays is for Alan. That's the oldest, right? I'm just giving you an example. Tuesdays is for Kylie. That meant that they had my undivided attention and we did whatever they wanted to do. Wednesdays were for mommy.
All right, top three, y'all. That's it. We're almost done. Top three. This episode is, oh my God, it was such a good one. We talked to Angie, which is a bilingual speech pathologist. We talk about the importance of keeping your home language, how we can help our children develop more words at home. Yeah, it was just an illuminating episode. It was like the end of, I believe, season one. I believe that was episode 20 of season one. It was fantastic. In my master's, I did a research on whether, because when Aiden was first diagnosed, they told me just to speak to him in English to avoid the confusion.
Yeah.
And of course, it wasn't a person of color that told me this, and the person was not Latina, and I didn't really know, so I accepted it, and I was like, cool, whatever you say. But in my research, I did a whole research, like a, what is it? I did a research, like actually, like one of my master, like we had to do like two things to produce to be able to graduate, and one of them was whether or not, if your child has a speech delay, raising them bilingual is going to affect whether or not they speak in the long run. And it actually has an adverse effect. Taking away that home language will actually negatively impact your child, because not only that, they'll feel ostracized in the house. So there was a bunch of research reports I read, but the one that stuck out the most was this child. He was from China, and his parents spoke Mandarin, and he was here in the United States. And basically, the speech providers, he had autism. The speech providers told the parents to only speak to him in English, don't speak to him in Mandarin. And as he got older, once he started speaking, he told them that he felt that he didn't belong to the family because he wasn't able to speak Mandarin with them, and that he didn't understand a lot of the social cues. Because if you think about it, as bilingual people, because you're Dominican too, the way we express ourselves in our home language is completely different than how we express ourselves in English. You know, we have different Spanishes. Like the Spanish we use at home that's another thing I learned in linguistics. The Spanish we use at home is not the same Spanish that we use academically, right? Yeah. So the way we like even showing affection or terms of endearment in your home language is completely different than, like, the foreign language. And if your parent was not born here speaking a second language, they're not able to give you those nuances of socialization via language if you're not teaching them that. So yeah, like, so what's your opinion on that? Like, should the parents, like, let's say your child is having a speech delay, should they only speak to them in one language, or should they speak to them in both? I know that as a bilingual person, we have a when we're learning English, that we have our home languages, at least my home language is Spanish, we have a long silent period because we're getting that receptive language. And then once we start talking, it's like, it's like it catches up really quickly. So, what would you suggest to parents of children that are bilingual, and if they're having a speech delay?
Well, first of all, I want to commend you for doing your research because it's kind of like what you said. A lot of the times when our parents they do go to the doctor, when they do go to these different professionals, oftentimes whatever it is that that person says, that's what they take, and they don't question it, right? Because growing up, that's what we're taught. That if your doctor or so and so who's an expert in this field, if they said that, then if that's what they're recommending, that's what you do, and you don't question it. So good work, and I recommend that to all the moms out there. You're your child's biggest advocate, and if you feel that something is off, or you just want, you know, a second opinion, you keep pushing. Just keep pushing, and until you get those answers.
Um, the next one is conscious dating featuring the other half of Brujas of Brooklyn, which is Miguel. And in this episode, we talk about the work that we did to heal, to be able to get ready to receive the love that we deserve. Yeah. So we talk about different experiences dating, and what it was like before we did the healing and what it was like after. I mentioned somebody on there that I am no longer dating, so yeah, that's whatever. I have no regrets.
Yep.
Wait, so what was it that he was doing? Okay, so we're gonna sidetrack a little bit because I know we have like our questions that we're supposed to go over, but what was it that he was doing that made you feel like that he was showing that he wasn't showing up and like showing exactly how interested he was?
That's a really important question because in hindsight, now that I know this man intimately, he's very shy. He's very, very shy. And that was coming through because the thing is that I was in Bali. We went on that day, the day that he told me he was interested. And then 2 weeks later I left to Bali for, a month and a half. And we only went on like 2 dates before I left, and we were trying to like coordinate FaceTiming. It's a 12-hour difference. When it was like 9 a.m. in Bali, it was 9 p.m. the day before. So there were a lot of times where we were FaceTiming in the evening in Bali after my yoga certification date ended, and it was like 9 a.m. his time, and he was working. And he's worked from home for over a decade. So, we would be FaceTiming and he wouldn't be doing this, like eye contact. And he'd be like on his computer because he's also working. But
Yeah.
I think the combination of him working and him being shy, I was like, yo, like, what the fuck? This dude is like not interested. So after that, I stopped like, being like, hey, we should FaceTime. I was like, I'm going to let this go. And I'm going to see where it goes. After Bali, I go to the Philippines. Ironically, he put me onto a lot about the Philippines. And, one thing that I used to do, and I still do, and I'm trying to learn not to do it, when I feel like people ain't fucking with me and I start to feel my feelings hurt, I withdraw. So he's sending me messages on WhatsApp.
Same.
Like, he's sending me messages on WhatsApp, like, how's it going? Did you land in the Philippines? And I was like radio silence. So then his saving grace is that before I left, he was like, I know you get back like on the 18th of July. Can I take you out on the 22nd to like give you time to recover from jet lag? And throughout my trip and as I was coming back, I was like, I'm gonna see if this dude lives up to it. And he did, right? He was like, hey, I haven't heard from you.
Yay.
Yeah, like, I know you're back. Let's meet up. And we did, and it was nice. And I was like, all right, he does like me. But then, like, again, this happened because he was going through something. Him and his family were going through something personally, and he didn't really know how to, like, voice that. And then he went to DR, he traveled. So there were a lot of, like, mixed signals. And, to be honest with you, he didn't kiss me on the first date. He didn't kiss me on the second date. And in hindsight, he's very much the type, like, when I really, really like someone, I take it very slow. So to me, I was like, "Yete pariguayo."
And then the final episode number 1 is Wow, You Can Really Dance. We talk about the socialization of Black and brown people, and this is featuring Alexandra Gutierrez. So she's one of the podcasters from the Wind and Cloud podcast. We talk about her cultural experience, being socialized in a community of Dominicans in Washington Heights, what we both experienced. So we talk about different experiences, and it was really funny. This episode is really funny because we talk about both of our fathers who passed away and how influential it was growing up Dominican, and how we're gonna change the narrative. Even though we did appreciate growing up the way that we did, we still want to change the narrative in certain aspects of our community and how children
Was it
are
culture
brought
shock
around
to like be in DR for that amount of time, after growing up here?
I wouldn't call it culture shock. And the reason why I say that is because I grew up as if it was DR in a way, because my parents had chickens in the, like my father had gallinas in the freaking bathroom. Girl. I will open the bathroom sometimes and the smell. And I'm like, what the?
Oh my God.
I just remember as a little girl, like, oh my God, it stinks. And I go and I see freaking gallinas in the fucking bathtub. We had a clawfoot bathtub.
Wow.
So I was like, this is the campo, but in an apartment. And then eventually, I tell this story to people and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. So then eventually, one of the roosters became like our pet. Like he was there for a while with us. And I started like loving this rooster as my pet. And he would follow my brother. My brother would be in the walker. He was very young at that time. And he would run around and like jump on my mom's, fly on my mom's head. Then on one day, all of a sudden, I was like, where's Kiki? And they were going on a trip somewhere. I forgot it was Connecticut or New Jersey. And I was like, you ate him. So I do not like gallina because of that. Because they freaking ate my rooster. I like when you see the clawfoot, I'm like, no. I'm traumatized.
Oh my God.
They were like, no. And I'm like, you guys took him and that's what you ate for the meal. I was so mad.
God.
I was so mad. Yeah.
Why was that a thing? Like my dad got us a baby, because they didn't want to have a dog. Yeah. So they got us a baby chick, and his name was Puri. So we had Puri, like my mom was pregnant, and we had the baby chick, and he was growing. He was a boy, and he started getting older. And then once my little brother was born, he was okay, but then like he got to like that teenage chicken age. He was like trying to peck at my brother, so we gave him to the super. The super had him down there because he had una cría de pollo, like he had a bunch of chickens. It had to be at least a dozen. It had to be like at least a dozen, right? So we used to go visit Puri, and then one day we went to visit, and there was no more chickens down there.
Tenía un sancocho de gallina ahí.
Oh my God, I couldn't stand that, man. He had a big belly too, and I used to be like, ese perro se comió mi pollo.
So yeah, that was pretty much it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for sticking with us for the past 2 years. This is year number we turned 2. So the next year is gonna be like more. It's gonna be better. We're gonna have so much more going on. There's much more Comadreando to go around. Stay tuned. We're going to have a celebration for our 100th episode. So start earmarking your calendars now for the date of February 24th, 2024. Just a heads up, comadres, we will have a hiatus during the winter break from December 20th and December 27th. There will be no episodes those 2 weeks. But besides that, yeah, we're gonna keep rocking it out and banging out the episodes. If you have any episode suggestions, remember you can always reach out to send me suggestions. All right, comadres, if you have any questions for me at all, please feel free to send me a Comadre-Gram via email at marcy@comadreandopod.com or slide up into my DMs. Please visit our website to read our latest blog posts, find out about future events, and get your official Comadre merch. I'm going to try to come up with something for the 100th episode. I'm going to have them handmade. I will take pre-orders though. I'm not going to, order more than what we need. Yeah, I'm going to have the same person that does the Mami Chula gear do it for the 100th episode event. Nada, and keep sticking with us, keep sharing, liking, and subscribing. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on those notifications, and when you watch an episode, dale like, hit the like button, and leave a comment. All right, comadres, thank you so much. I appreciate you all so much. I am so humbled that this endeavor has, first of all, lasted this long. I didn't know what to expect, but I definitely didn't imagine that it was going to be like this. I am incredibly humbled, and I just want to continue to serve my community in the way that I've been doing. So please continue to like, share, and subscribe. Send episodes to people that would need it. And with that, I want to say thank you. Take care. Bye.
Hello, comadre. Hey, comadre. Do you have a minute for comadre time?